Oh, yes. Hello, it's me, MrSasaki, with the Bach Suites for viola. All right. Anne Cole, who made this viola for me, wanted to get into my head. And I said, ooh, watch out what you ask for. So, specifically, she wanted to know, how do I approach Bach? How do I interpret Bach? She was a fan of my Bach Suite Number 1 recording. And she was like, how'd you come up with what you do? And I said, okay, big question. But you know what? Big questions require 2 videos. And so this is video number 1 of 2. All right. So video number 1, I want to kind of talk about the history of just generally about Bach, cello suites, and then more importantly, the structure of the cello suites and the movements. Okay, that make up the cello suite. I will make it as entertaining as possible. Don't turn off the video. All right. Video number 2 is going to be more about the practical, different approaches that I take to kind of find an interpretation. All right, so that can be the practical and maybe the ethereal. We'll see. All right, but here we are, video number 1. Are you ready? History. Let's talk about history. So first of all, full stop, I am not a historian, music historian. I did study for many, many years in conservatory as a performer, and I had to take music history classes. But I will also say, to be honest, nobody knows what happened 300 years ago and how people played 300 years ago. So we're all just kind of conjecture. We're just kind of guessing, right? We still should, I feel like what's missing, I am the most honest viola player you'll ever meet, and I will tell you this, that I feel like most music students now approach with very little knowledge of what they're playing. They just kind of play the notes because they can, and which is great. Technically, they're amazing, right? But they're like down here, that's kind of like, don't know. There's the music historians who are like, not so, they'll never find the answers. They're obsessed, right? And then I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm curious, right? You have to be curious as a modern musician or a good musician, I think. So I know a decent amount. I kind of know where I'm sort of building off of, and that's why I feel like I want to bring everybody else up to right now, okay? And maybe other people down a little bit. It's like, if we study too much, it's all in our head, and ultimately we want to play. So we need to let it out, okay? Here we go. Music lesson now that the disclaimer is over. What do you think? Do you trust me now with my glasses? Get ready for information overload. Here we go. I'll try to make it fast. Here we go. Bach. All right, so Bach was alive from 1685 to 1750. All right? 300 years ago, over 300 years ago. Wow. He wrote the cello suites from 1717 to 1723 when he was Kapellmeister in Köthen. Roast me if you want about that pronunciation, but I believe that is pretty close. And Kapellmeister. What is Kapellmeister? Was kind of like the music director of a royal court. It's a very prestigious position. Okay. Now Bach wrote these cello suites. I guess the king at the time was an amateur cellist, so he was kind of maybe trying to schmooze a little bit and make him happy, by giving him something interesting. But these cello suites kind of fell out of fashion, as did Bach in general. You have to keep in mind that the cello suites were quite difficult, and technically demanding, and also that they were handwritten manuscript. So people couldn't really understand it. It was hard to see where the notes were, the accidentals and all that. And it just kind of fell out of favor. It just wasn't performed very much because of those reasons. And Bach in general, his music just kind of got forgotten after his death because he was respected and known to be very good, but he was not a celebrity. He wasn't like Handel. Imagine, Handel was like jet setter. He was everywhere. And people loved Handel. And, so Handel's here, Bach was like down here. And Handel's kind of stayed high, but Bach has really risen in music history. And we'll talk a little bit about that coming up. So things have kind of reversed a little bit. Love Handel, though, by the way. It's in my personal opinion as well that Bach is probably the greatest musical genius to ever live. I mean, with the possible exception of Mozart. Mozart was freaking amazing. Like, undoubtedly a genius, but there's something about Bach. He wrote the rules that we follow today in Western music. He is pretty much I guess we could say he's like the king king of kings of music. I mean, he just, oof, yeah. But just to think about all the what he did and sort of established the framework, and everybody still follows those rules pretty much, And we're trying to break the rules, but we realize that, yeah, that Bach really had his finger on all of it. All right, so that's Bach, okay, and a little bit about the cello suites kind of falling out of fashion, until enter our hero Pablo Casals, the great cellist. In 1889, he discovered this manuscript. I think he was 13 years old. He discovered a manuscript in Barcelona in a music shop, and was like, "What is this Bach unaccompanied? Well, what is this?" And so he wanted to take it as a project. So he started practicing it and really found them to be amazing. And so he would actually concertize and perform them. And when he was in his 60s, he decided to record them finally. So 1936 to 1939, he made those recordings, and through his work and his life of performing them, people kind of rediscovered the cello suites, and they were like, "What have we been missing?" And at the same time, there has been the renaissance of Bach's music. People started to realize, "Wow, this genius has been like sleeping under our noses. Basically, we just never knew about him." So Bach really had a resurgence, and I think it was really like in the 1960s or so, like the 20th century, mid 20th century, that Bach became just like, people were just blown away. And so from ever since then, cellists, violists have been playing the cello suites, right? With edited copies, there's multiple editions. The editions that I like is this one. This is probably the cleanest one that you're going to get, Simon Rowland Jones on Peter's edition. His edition is very clean, and he tried his best to interpret the manuscripts. The one that I really like, if you don't want to kind of deal with too much hassle with bowings, would be the Watson Forbes edition, published by Chester Music. This one is my high school copy, actually, and I love this because if you just want to play the cello suites, the bowings work out here. Watson Forbes has simplified everything to like make it work, whereas this one, there's what we consider backward bowing now, and it's just kind of really awkward, and you have to kind of fix it. This one just plays really well. All right. So, Bach sort of, the cello suites have become, ubiquitous now. Okay, and thank goodness. All right. So here we go. The structure of the cello suites. All right. So each one has 6 movements. There are 6 suites with 6 movements. Okay. What are movements? Movements are kind of like musical events. They're big chunks of music. Okay. And as we're going to find, they're dances. Did you know that? Here we go. So the 6 suites, the first 5 were written for cello. The 6th one was written for the violone piccolo, which I believe is kind of like a chest cello, like played here, and like arms out and like bow, really weird, with 5 strings. So in my video, Bach is my wingman, Bach said, even the 6th suite, and that is true. We do play the 6th suite on viola, but a 5th down. So we play it on G string, the G major versus D major in the original key, because we don't have that 5th string to rely on. Okay? So, I have some emergency going on, but let's continue. So, the cello suites. Movement 1, Prelude. All right? What is the Prelude? The Prelude is kind of like an overture. Okay? So think of it as like the title credits to a movie. Okay? And it kind of just sets the mood. Okay? It establishes the key of the suite as well. Okay? 2, begins our dance movements. The rest of them are all dance movements. Ancient dances in a way that we don't do anymore, that we don't really know much about. And we have the steps and basics, but nobody really dances them anymore. Okay? Allemande. Okay? Duple meter, which means it's divisible by 2. Okay? Moderate speed, and I personally think of them as having a nice flow to them. They just kind of nicely flow along. Nicely melodic in a way. 3, courant. Okay? Triple meter, and it's fast and energetic. Some people think of it as like sort of like a rustic country dance, kind of rough on the edges. Okay? 4, sarabande. Triple meter, slow, and I think of it as kind of sultry and serious, okay, and solemn. I kind of like Saraban's. 5. This is the difficult one because suites 1 and 2 have a pair of minuets. Suites 3 and 4 have a pair of bourrées. And suites 5 and 6 have a pair of gavottes. So, suites 1 and 2, minuets. Minuets are triple meter. They're like an older version of the waltz. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, okay? Suites 3 and 4, pair of bourrées. Bourrées are duple meter. They're medium fast, and the emphasis is on the fourth beat, or the last quarter note. So 1, 2, 3. Bum bum bum, ba-dum bum, bum 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 bum. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. Okay? And then we have the suites 5 and 6, the pair of gavottes. All right, so this is, the emphasis is on the half measure, sorry. So we're going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Dun, 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 dun. All right, so 3, 4. It's kind of that half meter. It's very interesting. Good to know, right? If we want to play this as best as possible. Now, so let's talk about the last movement, and then we'll talk about the dances. So we have movement 6, the jig, okay? And so that's triple meter, and it's usually kind of fast and lively. So it's like da 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 da, like a modern day jig, or jig as we would call it now. So why is this important to know these dance movements and the characteristics? Well, general characteristics. Well, were these intended to be danced too? That's an important question. I don't think so. Okay, I think they're too complicated to dance to, really. But at the same time, we should know sort of what they're based off of. The dance style that they're based off of, and then ideally we should be able to kind of keep a steady tempo. All right, because you can't dance to something that's not steady. So a lot of people think like, oh, Bach unaccompanied, I can do whatever I want. Well, I think we need to remember, again, these are written as in the style of a dance, and so we have to keep the dance steady because people can't dance to unsteady music. So that's, I think, the most important thing to take away from learning about that, the cello suites being dances, is that they should be steady. And I hear so many people just kind of changing tempos and like changing rhythms, and it's like, what? It's not that free, because dance, 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 people. We got to keep it steady here. All right. So there's part 1 of my history and interpreting Bach. Part 2, the practical, the mystical. We'll see what happens, but I'll see you next time.